Good morning, my student. Okay, Mr. Mu'taz, biology teacher, is with you now. Okay, we'll explain lesson 1 from unit 1, support movement in the living organism. First, we'll talk about support in plants. Okay, as we know that the plant possesses different methods and the system for support, so as to maintain its shape and for protections. This method may be physiological, concerning the cell as a whole, or may be structure as the deposition of hard substance such as cellulose and lignin, or the support depend on the position and the distribution of the system. Okay. First, we'll talk about physiological support. If you soak a dried fruit in water, you will notice that it absorbs water and enlarge in size, okay, and swells due to turgidity of its cell. On the contrary, if you leave fresh seeds such as pear or beans for a time, you will notice that the seeds become wrinkled and weld due to loss of water from their cells. Okay, also the cell become target when water passes by osmosis into its vacuole. As a result, the size and the pressure of vacuole increase, affecting the shape of the cell wall. This phenomenon has been noticed in its turgidity of the cell of the guard cells, as well as the wilting of leaves and the stem of herbaceous plants that face drought. The wilting plant will attain its turgidity by soil irrigation. So we can say that physiological support, it's depend on the state as we make the seeds in it. Okay. Number 2 is structural support. Structural support depends on the structure of the outer wall of the plant. The plant has many other methods for support, such as deposition of substance or in the cell wall. The external plant cells can prevent loss of water from the inner cells, and so the epidermal cells will become thick and permeable due to cutin, okay, which deposits on the wall. The plant may become surrounded with the impermeable cork layer containing suberin in its cell. Cellulose or lignin may be deposits in the cell wall or in some of its parts. So these cells become stronger, such as chlorangioma cells, and the fiber and the stone cells. Okay. After that, we'll talk about the skeletal system in human. Okay, skeletal of man consists of an axis which is called vertebral column. This vertebral column attached at its upper end with the skull. The vertebral column also connected to the thoracic cage and the forelimb through the shoulder bones, and to the lower limb through the pelvic bones. The skeleton can be divided into axial, appendicular skeleton. Number 1, axial skeleton. It includes skull, vertebral column, and thoracic cage. Also, we have the appendicular skeleton, which include pectoral girdle, it's a forelimb, upper and hind limbs with pelvic bones. Okay. First, we'll talk about the axial skeleton. Number 1, the vertebral column. As we know that vertebral column consists of 33 vertebrae in the form of 7 cervical, okay, moderate size, 12 thoracic vertebrae larger than cervical, 5 lumbar, the largest are present in the abdominal region, and the 5 sacral vertebrae. Sacral vertebrates broad, flat, and diffused. 4 coccygeal vertebrates or vertebrates small and diffused. What are the structure of vertebra? As we know that each vertebra consists of an interior thick part called centrum, attached to laterally to transverse process, and the posterior upon process directed downward called the neural spine. The skull, it's called cranium. It's a bony case that consists of posterior parts, cerebral parts. It consists of 8 bones connected together at their periphery through sutures, and its posterior contain a big foramen through which the spinal cord is connected to the brain. The second part is called anterior part or fascial part. It includes fascial bones, the 2 jaw, first jaw, second jaw, and the position of sense organ, ear, eye, and the nose. Okay. Also, we have the thoracic cage. It's a case slightly conical in shape, connected posterior to 12 thoracic vertebrae and interiorly to the sternum. It's a flat bone pointed at its lower part, which is cartilaginous. The thoracic cage consists of 12 pairs of ribs, All of them are connected to the vertebral column posteriorly, but only 10 pairs are connected to the sternum. The remaining 2 pairs are called floating ribs, which are short and don't reach to the sternum. The rib is curved bone attached posterior to the centrum of vertebra, and its transverse process during inspiration. The ribs move interior and laterally to increase the volume of the thoracic cavity, and vice versa during expiration. Also, we have second, we'll talk about the appendicular skeleton. Number 1, pectoral girdle and the forelimb. The pectoral girdle consists of 2 identical halves. Each half consists of a scapula, which is triangular bone. Its inner end is broad and the outer end is pointed and has process attached to the clavicle, which is a thin bone. At the outer end of scapula, there is glenoid cavity through which articulation with the forelimb took place, forming the shoulder joint. After that, each forelimb consists of, we'll talk about the forelimb, consists of an upper arm supported by 1 bone called the humerus, and the lower arm supported by 2 bones which are radius and ulna. The upper part of ulna has the debridement inside, which is the inner projection of the humerus fat. The radius is smaller in size and you can rotate around the fixed ulna. Rest consists of 8 bones called the carpals present in 2 rows. Their upper end are attached to the lower part of the radius, while their lower end are attached to the bones of the hand's palm. The palm, which consists of long thin bones called metacarpals, followed by 5 digits. Each is made of 3 bones called the phalanges, except the thumb, which consists of 2 phalanges only. The pelvic girdle and the hind limb. The pelvic girdle consists of 2 identical halves fused at the ventral side at a region called the pubis symphysis. Each half consists of dorsal bone called the ilium, which is attached anterior and ventrally to a bone called pubis, and attached posterior and ventrally to a bone called the ischium. At the position of the attachment of ilium and the ischium bones, there is a deep depression which is called acetibulum, into which is the head of thigh bone feet, forming an articulation joint. Each hind limb consists of thigh bone, which is supported by bone called the femur. Shank bone supported by 2 bones in inner, it's the tibial outer fibula, and the lower end of femur. There is 2 processes that articulate with the shank at the knee joint. In front of knee joint, there is a small bone called patella. The ankle consists of 7 bones called tarsals, the largest of which is at the back, which forms the heel. Also, we have the foot supported by 5 bones called metatarsals, which are long, thin, and end with 5 toes, which each is supported by 3 phalanges, except the big toe, which is supported by 2 phalanges only. Second, we talk about the cartilage. There are type of connective tissue. What are structure of cartilage? They consist of cartilaginous cells. They don't contain blood vessels, so they get food and oxygen from bone cells by diffusion. Where are their sites? Okay, they form body parts such as ear, nose, bronchioles of the lungs. They usually found the tip of bones, especially at the joint between the vertebral and vertebral column. What's the function of cartilage? The cartilage protects the bone from corrosion as a result of continuous friction between them. Also, we have joint. A joint, we have 3 types of joint: cartilaginous joint, vibral joint, synovial joints. Okay, in the human skeleton, there are 3 types of joints, which are number 1. After that, we'll talk about the ligaments, separated bundles of fibrous connective tissue, where their tips are fixed on the 2 bones of the joint. What are properties of ligaments? They are fiber characterized by being strong, durable. The presence of a degree of elasticity give reason because to allow little increase in their length in order to not to be cut during the exception of the joint to external pressure. What are the function? طبعا link the bones with each other at the joint, determine the movement of bones at the joint in different directions. The ligament of knee joint, which are anterior curricate ligament, posterior curricate ligament, and the medial collateral ligament, lateral collateral ligaments. Some cases ligament may be ruptured because due to occurrence of a twist in some joint, as in cruciate ligament in the knee joint. Number 5, tendon, strong connective tissue, and the function of tendon, it's link the muscles with bones at the joint, which allow the movement during the contraction and relaxation of muscles. Like the Achilles tendon, it's important to connect the gastrocnemius muscle with the heel to help in movement of heel. The tearing of Achilles tendon, its cases performing vigorous effort, sudden contraction of the gastrocnemius muscles, and loss elasticity in the gastrocnemius muscles. In symptoms, it's inability of walking, you can't walk, acute pain, heavy movement of food. We can treat it by using anti-inflammatory and analgesic drugs, using medical splint, surgical intervention, which doesn't carry out except during the complete tearing of the tendon. Touch movement. We'll talk about the movement of the plants. We have number 1, touch movement, as in mimosa plant, its leaflet are collapsed in the successive order and followed by petioles as soon as they are touched, as if they will. Sleeping and awake movement, as in mimosa plant and some legumes, where the leaflet approach from each other during talkings, were indicated as sleeping movements. These leaflets get away from each other during day out, which indicate an awake movement. Note, the touch movement affected only by some leaflets, okay, that had been touched, where the sleeping and awake movement affect all the leaflet and petioles of filament. Okay, thank you, my student. Okay, okay, we hope we will meet, okay, near. Okay, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.